I think we influence more people than we think we do just by the lives we live, by the words we choose to speak. This is certainly a crucial time in journalism history. It's going to impact tremendously on the future of this nation if we don't continue to have news sources that we trust, news sources that we feel trust us to make our own decisions.
Leota Ester was talking over time with one of my colleagues, Alan Clark, about how she might honor her husband after he had passed away.
In June, he died in April. In June, she had come over to the cottage, and we went down the river in a raft.
They were literally floating down the little river behind Leota's summer home, Wee Brown, chatting. And during that conversation, they came up with the idea of a fellowship. What about this?
And she said, as I was thinking on the way home, I wondered if you wouldn't perhaps want to do something to honor Lee at Wisconsin Public Radio and the broadcast in the news area. She said, think about it. You know, we'll talk about it later, but wouldn't that be a great idea? And so she planted the idea. That's how it got started.
And here we are today, having brought a number of people through the fellowship and having just remarkable effects. And in fact, sort of echo effects, because we now have 3 different fellowships that we do. And the Lee Ester Fellowship was the inspiration for all of them.
Have you ever just kind of walked into a room and felt comfortable? That was how I felt professionally at NPR. This is why I went to school. This is why I want to do what I want to do. As I was looking around for entry-level jobs that I thought would be accessible to somebody, I found the Lee Ester Fellowship, and I thought, wow, this is perfect. This is wonderful. I get to pursue my passion. I get to be an autonomous professional person who's trusted to have a beat and to cover things, but I also have a place where I can kind of lean back and go, I have a question.
The skills they're gaining are so attractive that in a couple of cases they've actually moved on a tiny bit before they were actually done the fellowship, because they're skilled and they're embedded with us essentially.
Hands down, the best part of the Lee Ester Fellowship for me was that I gained the ability to write very quickly. When you're filling a newscast, your story does not go beyond 45 seconds. And I remember going out around 11 a.m. to cover a story. I would get all my sound, I'd come back, and Noah would tell me that my deadline was like 2:30, 3 p.m., something like that, and my jaw would drop, and I was like terrified. And maybe a month or 2 in, I realized that that anxiety was gone and that I was able to write stories as I was doing interviews. Like the words would just come to me because I had practiced so much.
I can't believe sometimes that a fellowship like this exists. To be successful and to really hone your craft, you want to have mentors, and you really have to be doing the job. And so what I loved about the fellowship is that, A, they make it very clear that it's going to be, and on the ground, you're telling stories, you're filing spots for air, you're meeting deadline. But then on top of that, you also had a mentor walking you along the way. You had other reporters in the newsroom who would be telling you, here's what I would have done and offering your advice. And so it's unbelievably fortuitous to have this opportunity.
It's really been fun to meet with each of them as we have ended the time of the fellowship and say, well, now tell me, what did you get out of this? How was it valuable to you? And each of them in their own ways, and often about the same thing, have expressed their own growth, their own ability to do a better job than they would have imagined doing without it.
There aren't many newsrooms that are looking to let young people just go on the air.
I don't remember who she said it to, but she turned to someone when we sat down for lunch, and she asked something along the lines of, now you're not making her get coffee, are you?
I was allowed to make mistakes without feeling like it was the end of the world or that I would get fired afterwards. Wisconsin Public Radio is the ultimate laboratory for early career journalists.
It sounds kind of over the top, I guess, but there is no way that I would be where I am today if it weren't for the fellowship.
They're carrying with them these values that they got when they were here at public radio in Wisconsin. I think we have every reason to be proud of them and hopeful. I think we influence people mostly just by being who we are, and then that sort of radiates out, whatever way it radiates.